Okay, this is about our SEEK, the services offered by SEEK. That is, as I said, we have career guidance, academic consultancy, and skill development. We pride ourselves on offering our exclusive suite of skill development, career guidance, and academic consultancy, and employability skill enhancement training to the highest standards of content, and delivery at competitive professional fees by our panel of expert trainers. We work closely with industry and sector skills councils in order to bridge the skill gap. And we offer our consultancy in setting up center of excellence in various sectors of industry for the institutions. We also guide institutions to emerge and also merge the skill development with existing curriculum to enhance the employability opportunities of these students. We work with corporates, governmental organizations, BPOs, call centers, academic institutions, other training providers looking to outsource, even management related companies, recruitment and placement, the general public and groups and individuals. And we are concentrating more on this employability skill enhancement training, where all the industry required 21st century skills are being trained. And we also do a lot of services to the institutes like schools and colleges and universities, wherein we conduct workshops like Spark workshop for the students and personalized career guidance, faculty development programs, life skills, gender sensitization, entrepreneurship, women empowerment, 21st century skills, public speaking, and so on. And we also give services to corporates in a customized manner based on the need of the companies and corporates. And we are very proud to say that we are associated with the Railway Protection Force for their training, and also in railways and income tax department. So these are all the governmental organization where we give regular training, and also for many software companies and other core companies also we do a lot of training. This is about SEEK, and we focus more on the career guidance actually for students right from age 13. The reason is here in the screen you can see the age groups, 5, 15, 22, 40. It's very important age group of every human. Many of us are working, many of us have studied, and we are not aware of our own strengths and abilities. We just go with what others guide us or others say. So what happens is many of us are not happy with what we are doing, and we identify that in a later stage of our life. So now I would like to take you over this life stages. Actually, the life stage start from the birth of the baby. And when you see at the age of 5, the child will be pampered and the child will be motivated a lot by the parents, and whoever comes home, they will be motivating the child, and the child will have an attitude called as I can. Whatever you say to the child will be able to do at the age of 5, because no negative talks to the child, and always people pamper and motivate the child. But once it goes to school, you have something called as examination, marks, parent teachers meeting, and all. So there the comparison comes into the life of the child, and there the child will be marked as whether you are intelligent or you're a successful person or a failure, or all those things are based on the marks what they score. So that makes the child to focus on getting more marks and comparing with others, rather than identifying the potential what the child has. Because in every student parent teachers meeting, the teachers will also talk about the strengths of the child and the weakness of the child. If the child is scoring very well in science, the teachers may say that the child is good in science, but still, like the child need to improve in maths. So what we do is we concentrate more on what the child has to improve, and we start coaching the child on maths rather than concentrating on improving the strengths of science. So this happens, and every child forgets about the potential and the strengths what it has, and it just takes the path of what the child's friends do, and or the relatives suggest, or whoever says something they just follow. So this attitude, what happens, they complete the education with such a motive, and at the age of 22 when they are entering into job, they get a feeling of canny attitude, because they lose all their motivation, they lose all their strengths and potentials they have. They will try to do something which is not possible, and which is not their cup of tea. So while doing like that, what happens is the child will will not be able to perform well, and the confidence level will come down, and it will ask, can I do anything? So that is what is the problem here. And the entire river of education will be of some other's choice. The child will start living someone else's life. And then when they go into the job, you can see that the freshers don't stay in one job for a long time. They just resign and rejoin, resign and rejoin. This is what we call it as dance of life. They cannot settle in one particular job because it doesn't suit them. They are not doing something what they are for. So this leads to a frictional employment or unemployment. So we need to remember that 18 years of education, whatever the energy we put in, because some people will think that career is only when they start working, but it is not true. Career starts from the time you learn. So learning to earning is what is career. So 18 years of education, whatever you do out of your own strengths and potential is what is going to reap for your 40 years of work life. So in Seek, actually the main concentration in career guidance is we do a personalized psychometric analysis where almost 100% of the strengths and potential of the child or anybody from 13 years to 23 years actually will be assessed, and a perfect career path will be designed. So we match with the occupations of what is required, what is the futuristic, which will match with the child and so on. So this is an overview about our Seek. And we follow that you need to know yourself, personality, strength, interest and potential, and then work on your career. So this is what is the mantra of Seek. And I have a YouTube channel in which you can see around 900 videos in all the categories, right from the career guidance and all the futuristic skills, as well as a lot of motivational messages. And you can reach me out in this number and WhatsApp your doubts. And if you want to have a career path to be designed by us, we are there to help you. So now we are welcoming Deepika Princess, who is our guest today. And Deepika is an engineer. She's basically a biomedical engineer. And she has also done her university. Participants, kindly switch off your speaker. I request you to mute your speaker. And her core competencies, she has a wide knowledge on biometric services of clinical trial, and she has worked as project lead in 10 plus clinical study build and 10 plus studies as project manager, and as a program manager and trial data manager in a phase 2 oncology study. And she has presented on amendments and how to tackle its challenges in Germany, and also she has attended a conference in London. And she's a proud 11th rank holder of Anna University in biomedical engineering, and she's with her proud parents. And also I should mention here that she was our best outgoing student of 2014 from SMK Formra Institute of Technology. She has got a lot of qualities of hers for her credit. And she has a core competency of creative study database design in EDCs and SAS compatibility, and end-to-end study project management protocol to database lock, risk-based monitoring setup in Marvin, randomization setup in Marvin, technical ongoing support and amendment management, custom reports development in Marvin using SQL, and custom functions development in Medidata Rave using C#. So I think Deepika will be the right person to explain about all these core competencies. And also I'm very proud to say that she's my student who is extremely successful in maintaining relationship with people. She's such a human person, and she's very flexible, willing to take on more responsibilities when it is needed. And she has a solid organization skills with the ability to multitask, coordinate multiple projects simultaneously. And she is she has done a lot of things in her Zifo. She works for Zifo, and she has done a lot for Zifo. And now I would like to welcome Deepika for today's webinar.
Okay, I was on mute. Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. That was a very, I'm very honored to hear all those things. Yes, I'm really proud to be a student. It's good. So thank you so much, ma'am. It's my pleasure in doing a webinar for Seek. and thanks for giving me an opportunity to talk about my platform today. That is the data handling and other stuff in medicine. So informatics in medicine is what we are going to talk today. That is actually my platform. So the participants can ask me questions. I can help you guys to answer or give more view towards the data handling. Okay. Okay, let me quickly present my screen. Perfect. So I'm Deepika. I'm working in Zipfo, and we are going to talk about the informatics in medicine. So what is informatics and why is it needed in medicine? All those things is something we are going to talk today. Okay. What we will be discussing is we will be quickly checking out the background on informatics and why is it needed in life science. Because whenever we talk about informatics, we know it is something related to information technology. It's completely IT. Why we are going to talk about it in our life, why it is going to be helpful in healthcare, and what is the specialties in this field of medical informatics, and why there are so much of challenges in adapting informatics in medicines, and really is there a career around medical informatics? So these are all few of the things that will come in your mind when we are going to discuss these things today. So let me quickly jump into the topic of what is informatics. So when we see the word informatics, okay, so information, it is some part of the information that we see in our life day to day. So information we will be creating, we will be storing, we will be retrieving, and we will be sharing. So for example, when we are talking to a friend about something, we are creating an information, and the person is storing, okay, on this day, this time we both talked, so this is the information I have stored. And when they are sharing it after some time as a memory back, we did this on that day, it's a retrieving. And sharing again to someone else is sharing. So all this informatics, what we are doing is, when we do it with the help of process and computers, it becomes the informatics. What is the best thing about informatics is, like, you can imagine even after 100 years we will be able to retrieve the information. Is it possible to retrieve a news that has happened 100 or 200 years before? Yes, some of the newses we would be, but not all. But here with the informatics, we will be able to retrieve any type of newses that is stored, or any important things that is stored in our history, right? So we all are making histories day to day. So this informations, when we are going to put it into one database, and when we are going to retrieve it after 200 years, wow, that is going to be the path of informatics, right? So what is happening between the informatics is, it's a tree triangle between people, process, and technology. So this is the main path that runs behind the informatics on the whole. So what is it going to do in the health informatics? In the health informatics, it is going to help in analyzing the data, whatever we are collecting. Okay. So when I say information, the informations are collected as data in informatics. Okay. So data is a collection of information, nothing but. So we will be able to analyze this data. We will be able to document it. We will be able to steer it to the path we want. We can able to control it, and we can able to synthesize it, all this informations regarding the healthcare delivery system. So what do I mean by analyzing a data? For example, we will take the scenario of COVID, right? You all know the world meter URL which we are using right now. Day to day it is getting updated, how many people are impacted with COVID, and how many have uh, deceased, and how many have got back to normal, and all those things we are seeing day to day, right? So that way we will be analyzing the data, and how we are documenting it. it is not like one person is entering the COVID details. It is from a lot of people, a lot of places. They are documenting it in the same website. And how we are staring it, okay, with that, there is a lot of graphs created. Hope you know our Chennai government have said like maybe our cases can go to peak in September and come down in November. So this is the staring of the data. So what we can do to control it? So this is the peak, this is the expected growth of these cases. How can we control it? Yeah, by bringing up a new lockdown. So that is the controlling. And that's how the synthesis and all those things happens around. So this is a very brief example around the informations, how we are going to trigger in the health informatics. So actually what health informatics consists of? It consists of basically two things. One is information technology and another one is our fundamentals. So when we talk about information technology, it is going to be healthcare, research, education. So healthcare consists of everything. It even starts from the first, when we go to a hospital, we are registering our name and then we are getting an appointment. From there to the person who has any death and what is the cause of the death, and if it is because of any disease, why the disease has occurred, and when he was taken to the hospital, duration of the hospitalization. To that level, the healthcare will be captured in the informations. And then in the research part, yeah, there are a lot of research happenings starting from our drug discovery. So when we talk about drug discovery, when we are going to discover a drug, there will be a lot of information that needs to be collected. So we will talk about that in the next few minutes. So in that places also a lot of data will be collected. All those things will be captured in the research informatics. And then education. Yeah, nowadays you guys know we are having the online courses for all our kids from home. They are looking at the online courses. The same thing, there's a lot of educational courses for the physicians who are practicing, that starts from e-learning and stimulations of surgeries. It is not needed that they have to practice it on a human. They can practice it via any stimulations. There are virtual reality. All those things come under the informatics part. And then the fundamentals, what it actually supports is communication. So when we are going to talk to your doctor in this lockdown situation, it is very easy. You can dial his number, talk, and he might prescribe you a medicine. The kind of communications. And the knowledge management, uh, for managing it, it is actually driving from the education part of the informatics. And also when we are going to talk about the knowledge management, if for example this COVID situation will be a history and how it was controlled, and all those things are knowledge management, which can be retried and learn from it, and we can make some precautions out of it. And then decision support, while we are making any decisions, while one of the key example is when a medicine is tested. Okay, when a medicine is tested on humans, and they see that three patients are having some impacts because of the medicine, they call it as adverse event. So okay, so this drug is not good for the humans, let's stop it there. So how they are coming to that conclusion is because of the information they have collected from the patients. And then clinical information management is around all these things. So how we are going to securely use it, how we are going to handle it, all those things comes around that part. And when we dig down, what are the applications around this? Okay, so when we are talking about information management, we will be talking about the electronic medical record. This is actually coming up in India, but in other places out of our country, they will be having a card called EHR. electronic health record or electronic medical record, where from the birth to, to their death, all the medical records will be collected in one platform. And then for the billing transactions and for the insurance and for ordering some systems, ordering systems comes inside for the purchasing of any hospital equipments. Example is our ventilators. We know there is going to be higher cases. Yes, how many ventilators is needed? So from the data that is stored, they can retrieve it. Okay, this is the graph. This is going to be the peak. Okay, let's get this much of ventilators for this hospital. We can allocate this much to this, and all those things comes around that. And when we talk about communication, it is telemedicine, teleradiology, patient emailing or communicating with the physicians, and some presentations around. So what we are doing today is also one of the way of informatics. So sometimes it happens in clinical trials where they have to completely show a presentation of what they did from the start to the end to the FDAs to get approval. And for decision support, there can be a reminder systems. When we see it in hospitals, there is a centralized system. So when the nurse have to give a injection or something to the patient at this point of time, okay, so there is a monitoring system where it will be inputted in that, and the system will beep and remind them, this bed you need to give them injection to them with this ml. So that kind of reminder systems is also in place right now. And then diagnostic expert system. So what is the diagnosis? The most used diagnostic expert system is our Google. So whenever you are having a leg pain or headache, what we will go and immediately do, okay, let me check it in my Google what it says, and it immediately says, okay, these are the disease or the issues you might have, or this is a thing, it is very normal, you can try out this. So it's kind of a simple diagnostic expert system. These type of systems are also there for all the practitioners and the physicians who will give the symptoms and find out what is the issue with a patient. And then for the drug interactions, yes, for one of the reasons, if a drug need to hit any one particular organ, right? So what they will do is they will give a biomarker with some recorded information that will be transmitted to the system back. So that kind of drug interaction and things can be monitored using the informatics. Knowledge management, a lot of journals and consumer health information. We all have national information where all the diseases, starting from chikungunya, what happened a few years back, right? So to that, how many deaths has happened, what happened, and how it was rectified, to the virus that has occurred in Kerala, the Nipah virus. Those records, all those things are collected and saved in the national database, so that at any time that can be retrieved and acknowledged. And evidence-based medical information. So what is evidence-based is for a medicine to come into a market, we cannot simply say, yes, this is validated and you can simply give to someone. It needs to be evident that it is actually bringing a heal to your patient. So there needs to be some data collected, and they need to prove and provide information about a medicine that is in the market. So what healthcare entities get out of health informatics is time and cost. So when we are going to use the informatics, it is said like a lot of efficiency it will bring in, and it will increase the quality of care. And then it will bring a safe healthcare. And when we are talking about the safer healthcare, it is related to having your EHR, the health status, and everything will be in track. That is, your physician would have said, would have asked you to come to the hospital after 3 or 4 days. but you would have thought, okay, this medicine, I'm fine, let me not go out. But no, they will follow when there is a informatics with them. Then they will be able to follow and provide inputs to you using the telemedicine. And another way is where informatics play a major role in the geographical independence. So wherever you go, your information can be carried. It's need not like you need to carry 100 or 1,000 papers about your health information. It can be carried in a single chip or your phone. Even the imaging, okay, the x-ray or your CT scan imaging, which is of very high place consumption, it can be handled inside a single chip by turning it into digital. And then for patient education, educating patients, for example, it is very difficult to ensure what the patient will be able to understand. For example, if the patient will understand by seeing a video after showing, okay, this is the impact, then that is how we can do it. So now whatever we are seeing in all the advertisement, wash your hands like this, like this, so it's kind of an education. And then patient autonomy, patient can own their have their own records, and they will be providing some security to who can access and who cannot. So what are the specialities in medical informatics? So when we are going to talk about medical informatics, there are a lot of informatics that is coming into picture. One is the bioinformatics, public health informatics, organizational informatics, social informatics, and clinical informatics. So all this together is the one that comes under the medical informatics. Today, I'm going to go in depth with my favorite topic, clinical informatics. So the clinical informatics, when we talk about this, uh, it is a collection of data from the clinical. What I mean by that is, here is where your drug discovery things come into picture. So when we are going to talk about drug discovery, your patient, first time he is getting an medicine, before that a lot of things happens in preclinical. So when we are going to have some drug discovery, there are two parts to it. One is the preclinical and another one is the clinical. So what happens in clinical is, first they will find a target. For example, the target can be a cancer cell, and they will find to reduce the cancer cell or to destroy it. So what can they do from that? They will find a medicine, they will find a compound, they will test it in vitro, that is in labs, they will test and they will see whether it is working perfectly. And immediately they won't give it that, okay, this compound is working, let's give it to the patient. No. What they will do is, the next thing they will go and give it to a person, they will give it to animals, they will do animal testing, that is a in vivo testing, where they will test it on animals, they will find what is the dose that can be given. You all would have found like paracetamol 500 mg is there, paracetamol 650 mg is there. So why there is a difference? And for kids it would be 120, 125. So a lot of different dosages are there, right? So how they will verify it is, for this age group, what is the best one? So in animals, they will find, they have mouse, rat, and all rabbits, dog, and all these animals to test it, and they will fix a dose limit. And then comes the clinical trial. Clinical trial runs at 4 phases. First phase is to check the safety and the efficacy. So what they will do is, they will give it to the volunteers who is coming up. If you guys are following the COVID news, in US, the first, I think one lady, she came forward to do a volunteer testing for COVID. So kind of that, the people will come up and then they will be giving out their data, and then the vaccine or the injection or the drug will be given to them, and then the data will be collected, and in that place also they will not fix a dose. So they keep on increasing the dosing limits to check that up to what dose we can try this medicine too. And then it goes to phase 2, phase 2 to another larger people, and phase 3 at the geographical level. So each geography, for example, if they have tested it in US, when it is coming to India, again they will start from phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. They cannot directly go to phase 3. So in this way they can do that. And the phase 4 is mostly the marketing phase. So they will give the drug to the markets, but still your physician will be following up with them, with the patients, if there is any problem because of the drug, or they're all right with the drug. So in a single statement, what I can say is the medicine whatever we have right now takes almost 10 years to get it in hand. So that's why even the vaccines that we are using for the COVID, that is going to take some time. They are expecting it in 2021, although they started the trials from 2019. So they are speeding up the process to get to there. So when we are going to talk about the clinical information systems, that is with the clinical data, what happens is patient care will be planned, and what decision need to be taken will be planned, and then entry, how the data is to be collected, and what are the tasks, what are the treatments, what are the data needs to be collected. When I say data to be collected in clinical, that starts from the physical examination about the health condition of the person. It starts from whether they have a headache, or they have any significance with their pain or anything. And then there will be medical history collected from them, and there will be ECGs and other data that will be collected, and all will be recorded in one place called electronic data capture. So we call it as EDC in clinical trials. So where it gets stored, and the EDCs will have their own database, and then that will be fed back into the electronic medical record. It can be used. It is a two-way. That is the medical histories, whatever we have for an individual, that can be brought to the electronic data capture also. So in this way, all the data will be collected, and even the adverse events, like even if the patient gets swelling after giving some injection, that will be collected in the record of EDCs to see. Okay, so at the end what they will do is they will analyze the data. So when they are analyzing the data, they will see, okay, this out of 50 patients, 30 patients got swelling. So this is the side effect of this medicine. So that's how they will bring out the side effects, which is minimal or not. So whenever you put medicine in Google and check, they will say there are some side effects, right? So all this comes out of the information that is gathered in the clinical domain. So when we see here, it is like clinical management, and there will be clinical administration, there will be clinical services, and out of that there will be a general management. So all this together comes under the clinical informatics. So this is the background of clinical informatics. So what this seems to be good, right? So when we are talking about it, it seems to be very good and very informative, and we see that, okay, this is going to do very good to the society and for us. So why is there a lot of challenges in migrating to informatics? So when we look at that, it is very difficult to adapt to the growing trend. What I mean is, when we are when I was working in few of the clinical studies, what I came across is the patients who will be treated would be above 60 years, and they won't be able to use their mobiles to enter data. Yeah, some clinical trials will ask people to record their well-being in a mobile, like a survey. So they won't be ready to do that. So patients will be like, no, I don't want to do it. And another problem is with physicians who is very not clear in entering what data. Audience, can you please mute your lines? Okay, thank you. So adapting to the growing trend is actually a problem right now. A lot of people are not secure enough to adapt to the informations, collections, and all the other things. And there is a lot of technical expertise shortage. When we are taking in India, we do not have a lot of home build electronic data captures or EHR systems that we will be able to use it. So there are a lot of technical shortage that is there in the day-to-day market. And then there are data loss concerns. So what if the person doesn't collect the data? How well it is good? Are they losing anything? Or the physician can say, I have given all these details, but what is there in the system is not enough. So, and then certain people, certain hospitals, certain um, organizations are not ready to go with implementing this because they are worried about the reversed investment. And then sometimes there are issues with integrating between systems. So when I said about the electronic health record and electronic data capture, so electronic health record is your complete record of medical details, right? So these two systems need to be integrated to get the data from here to here. So there can be some integration and system issues when we are doing that, because we do lack in some technical expertise. And then people are more worried about the privacy and security. So these are all the major challenges in migrating to informatics. So one thing about the careers, is it actually booming in the world? Yes, it's a very evergreen platform, because I can say only 17% of the industry has adopted the digitalization process. So a lot of careers are around this part. Um, one thing is, people started building and creating the informatics like EDCs, EHRs, ELNs. A lot of digital systems are coming up nowadays. So entrepreneurship is coming up, and then a lot of clinical systems and a lot of integration systems. All these are coming up. So you might wonder, so is it like programming language and other things are going to play a role? Yes, a lot of because information needs computer science and these backgrounds. So this will be the base for the careers that we are going through. One good part with the careers are, there are so many pharmaceutical companies, professional service providing companies that are working for the scientists and doctors in the clinical management. They are all actually evolving in the career of medical informatics. So that's a very brief intro and discussion of informatics and medicine. Next, we can go for questions if you guys have any.
Yeah, you can just close the screen. We'll have some discussion on this topic, and then we'll entertain the questions from the audience. So,
Okay.
how do you think the medical professionals see the use of informatics in medicine?
Okay. So when I say professionals, how they are seeing it, they are not, okay. A very classic example I can say is, there is a discussion and argument around data that is coming out of Fitbit for the clinical trials. Uh, the professionals are not ready to accept the data that are captured from a Fitbit. Fitbit is a fitness, so it captures sometimes, it has the heartbeat capturing all these things. They are not ready to use that. And the second part is, they are not uh, I mean, they are not ready to do what they feel is using a e-learning or using virtual reality to study or stimulate the surgery and all. That is not actually the same practice how we do it in real. So all this where they still have a lot of doubts, and this is actually a very challenges the informatics is facing when it is migrating into the healthcare. uh, and I also have seen doctors, what the doctors does it, the individual doctors, they are using a informatic system at their hospital, and then they will not give any prescription in hand, they are sending it in email. That all those things actually shows the improvement in the field of informatics also. Some are getting adapted, some are not. So how they are going to go into those levels are going to be a very critical part.
See, I always think about as a common person, we give a lot of data to the hospitals. Every person would have gone to hospital at one time or the other, and all our data are there in the hospital. How safe it is, and is there any cyber security working on hospital? Even in small hospitals.
Okay. Yes. Data, that is the very major problem people are very afraid of. Even the when we are talking about this, even the people who are having any alcohol or drug abuse, they are not ready to share their data outside. Yes, there are a lot of regulations around this. What are those are, patients have all the rights to say, I'm not ready to give my information to this person. What are the acts or what are the regulation around that is, HIPAA is one of the regulation that says patient need not disclose any data, and it has brought in a lot of standards and regulations to identify which person can get the information from the patient. It is not like a common person can go and get the data. If we are seeing in a hospital, the hospital does some surgeries. Okay, for example, they are doing a radiographic surgery or something. They have a lot of data about the person, people and the patients they have. So they cannot share that detail to another hospital. They are not supposed to, because they need to get information from these people whether I can share the information, and these are the details I'll be sharing, and they both need to sign an agreement to it. Yeah, without that they cannot share. And then high tech is one of the uh, secure information exchange comes into place when it is being shared among organization. One another recent thing that is a very good part is our we call it as GDPR, that came into picture in 2018. What GDPR does is, uh, that actually brought in a lot of things among all the organization. Actually, it was brought in by the European government. They say our people data should not be exchanged to any other countries, even for any important reason. So what they do is, they even consider that if you are going to store the data, you should have your cloud in the European government. So kind of that restriction came into picture, and that has brought in a lot of changes in a lot of organization. All the organization adapted to this GDPR regulations, and then they are opening up the security around this data and privacy.
Okay. So that's what is my very important question. And in your company, Zifo, how the data is handled for clinical trials?
Okay. So all the professional service team who work for the pharmaceutical companies, they need to be the GDPR compliant. They will have the GCP, good clinical practice trained. All the employees should be trained in GCP. All the employees should be trained in GDP, good documentation practice. if they are going to any of the laboratories to check on how they do things, they need to be trained in good laboratory practices, which is GLP. Also, one another way they do is, when we are talking about the drug development and other things, the electronic data captures, the system itself should have gone some validation, and it needs to be accredited with 21 CFR Part 11. It is for the data integrity. And they will have some standard policies and principles for storage. When we are saying in a clinical trial about the data, how it is managed, clinical data management team will be there for every trial that is running for the disease studies. What the clinical data management team does is, they will see only these data are collected. So in a clinical trial, the name of the patient is never collected. And one another thing is, we will never collect the date of birth. Even the date of birth seems to be a key point to identify an individual. So that is not collected. Only the year is collected. And to calculate the age, they will be having another field to check how the age can be calculated. When they came to the hospital or something like that, with this year, they will be collecting the age. Now, that even is not revealed. One another thing they do is, for data handling, for all the clinical trials, the patient will be asked to sign a informed consent. Okay, this trial, I'm going to be treated. This is for 1 year. I need to visit on these days to the hospital, and I'm eligible to attend this clinical trial. And they will also be given a choice that any time they can stop the trial. See, I do not want to continue this trial. They have all the flexibility to do that. So in this way, the data integrity is maintained in all the professional services that supports the pharmaceutical companies. That includes the book.
Okay, there's a question asking you to explain about the GDP and GD. Have you explained, or they need some more?
GDP, good documentation practice, or GDPR?
GDP.
GDP. Okay, good documentation practices is applicable to all the individuals who are working in the clinical profile. So even in the hospitals and other places, they need to have a very clear data of an individual. They should not collect not needed details like family details or anything. And also there is it should be legitimate and properly available for everyone to understand, and it should not be left blank. And if it is left blank, they should give a proper information on that. So all these things comes under GDP. With the GDP, how the informatics works is, we will have a thing called queries or edit checks. For example, when we are entering a form in Google or something, we will say, they will ask a password and reconfirm password. If it is not same, there will be a error message, right? So in the same way, in informatics, we can program saying, see, you have said yes to this field, but you have said no to this field. Correct any one of it. It will be flexible, but it will also say it will be regulated to control this data, what they are collecting. It will not change the data. It will make sure that they are collecting the correct data. So all these things comes under the GDP. This will be handled by the clinical data management teams mostly.
Okay. See, you said you have very good career opportunities in this. So what is that skill they need to equip? What should be the basic education qualification? And what are the opportunities? Do we have it in India, or we need to go abroad?
It is actually blooming in India right now. People, whoever, okay, the courses that is available is, one is the biomedical. There is a subject called medical informatics in biomedical. In medical electronics also, there is a subject called medical information. So what we can do to equip ourselves is getting used to the programming. It's not needed that we need to completely learn some complete programming. We can learn the concept of programming into it. Main thing with the informatics is the database handling and analyzing data. So better to learn the SQL to handle the database. And one easy analysis part is the SAS. And another one, they are going into Python or visualization. A lot of things are there. There are a lot of e-learning courses around this. So we can actually, which is actually free. We can actually enable ourselves in all these things to know more and equip ourselves in these skills.
Okay. So I think the audience should ask questions now. Which type? Sweta, can you be specific? Which type of program you want to learn? What is it? Shweta, can you be more specific on your question? And I also request the audience to post some questions. The students, I think many biomedical engineering students, yeah, which type of program want to be learned?
Okay. As I said, SQL is good. SQL is very easy. We have Code Academy and we have W3 schools, which can give you the basic courses around, which will give you hands-on experience on SQL and things. And there are online videos that you yourself can try around the SQL part. One another thing is SAS and SAS, Python, and all those things are also good. So then from the SAS, what we will be understanding is the basic logical things. So like if this is for what is it, nothing but if else concept. If this row has yes, then this row should not be no. So kind of that analysis we can check. So the basic concepts you can learn any languages like C, C++, or anything, basic concept, no need to go in depth. We can learn the for looping, if looping, and all those things.
Okay, any more questions? Now I'm learning SAS. This is enough or need to go for SQL too? I think you said SQL is required.
Yeah, SAS and SQL, if you know SAS, it will be very easy to learn SQL actually. So you can enable yourself in that too. But for the analysis part, SAS is actually enough.
Okay. Any more questions? Could you see in the chat window some questions? Pharmaceutical person well know terms of medical words. What about opportunities for medical side?
What about opportunities for medical side? Okay. I'm still not clear. Can you be so specific?
You need to be
on
clear on the question, please.
Is it like only the people who know pharmaceutical and other programming knows, and the opportunities from the medical side in informatics? So if that is from the medicine side, there is a lot of things called nurse informatics also. Okay, so people who are doing nursing and stuff, you also can learn the nurse informatics, and there is a bioinformatics that comes around the medical things, and even the pharmacy informatics is also there. That is bringing up all the medicines into a single hub and transmitting it. All those things is also coming inside that. So when we talk about the technicians and the people in healthcare, you guys can equip yourself in using the now using the trending devices and using them regularly and not going with papers anymore. It would be good if you can move to digital environment rather than the traditional way of using it.
Okay. Any more questions? Just check the chat window.
No. I studied masters in engineering. There is no problem for this, right? No, not at all. It's good you have done your masters. Hope the knowledge will help you to find the correct career path for you. So that way you will be able to know that.
Any more questions?
Yeah.
It was a wonderful session, Deepika. You really had a wonderful session. Your presentation was too good, very clear, and your explanation was also very, very clear. And the students should take the best out of your presentation and the explanation what you have given. And you have given a lot of hope for them. And what they should do during this lockdown, what do you think they can learn?
There are lots of online courses, ma'am. What I did is I'm just moving into the business analysis part. So I just learned about what it is from Udemy e-learning courses, which is free. So by that way, I have equipped myself. So same way, there will be people who do not know what to do, and there will be some specific courses they would like to learn. So there are e-learning courses like Coursera, EDX, Udemy, and some of these e-learning courses give certificates, some do not. Do not worry about the certificate. Go and gain your knowledge, and that will actually help you to understand things better.
Yeah, even I tell the students the same thing. Don't do something to show to somebody.
Right.
It is for your own self. If you feel, yes, I've learned something today, that's it. That's the joy rather than collecting certificates. So that was very, very informative. I think even the feedback Hemalata has written, thank you very much, ma'am. This session is very informative to learn more. And thank you so much. So this is what we want. And Jennifer Angel has given the thank you for the session. And now I have some idea about this field. So
So happy to hear
that
that.
is the feedback which we expect. So kindly share the video recording also. Definitely, I have given you the YouTube channel link. If you subscribe, in another half an hour, you will be getting this video as well. And many more webinars are going to come. And we are planning for an international webinar from July 6th to 11. And people from USA and Malaysia. Malaysia, we have UITM, University of Mara. There is a very big university, and nearly 5 to 6 experts from that university, they are going to come and talk in our webinar, international webinar, right from microwave, satellite communication, IoT, smart cities, a lot of things we are planning. And also we are going to plan FDP for the college faculty. And for students, some life skill sessions are going to be there. And also I'm going to conduct a public speaking training webinar. And that will be very, very useful. Many people wanted to speak in public, but they have some inhibitions. So let us see how to crack that. And because that is a passion, like people feel like doing that, but they have some hesitation. So that's wonderful to have such good audience. Audience are very, very cooperative. Thank you so much. And keep following our webinars. And also, you are interested in some topic in webinar, please mention the same. We will try to include that also in our future webinars. And I'm going to share the feedback link now. And I expect you all to please fill in this in another 15 minutes time. We'll be closing in another 15 minutes time. And thank you so much once again, Deepika, and God bless you. And wishes to your family, your parents, your husband, your child. So stay blessed and stay happy. And I mean, as I know very well, like we are all like-minded. We keep updating ourselves every now and then, and that's a very good attitude. And also, you share that knowledge to everybody through this type of platforms. That gives an immense pleasure, of course. So we are going to have next session on 24th, actually. That is by the Naturals CEO, Mr. C.K. Kumravel. And we will send you the link. If possible, I'll try to post it now.
Okay. Meanwhile, thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah.
It's a very great pleasure to address on this topic. It's my very favorite topic. Yeah, thank you for giving me this opportunity. Dr. Usha Ishwaran ma'am is actually a mentor for a lot of people. She will guide you in whenever you have any question. She knows how to actually mend you and lead you further, because a lot of times, even now, even my day-to-day life, if I'm facing any issues, I'll just message her, mama, this is the situation, what shall I do? So that's how she is. You guys can actually contact her if you have any questions on your career, on your courses, or anything. She will for sure she will give you an answer by if she even don't know, she will figure out who will be the right person, and she will bring the right answers to your questions. So keep following her channel and keep following Seek. I'm very happy that she has started this and guiding all the students into a very bright future. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Deepika. I'm really blessed to know you people. All my students are my jewels. They're all diamonds. Everybody is unique in their own way. I just can't say anything about anybody. Everyone is unique, and I love every one of you all. And I'm always looking forward to be connected with you all to learn something every time, because it's not only the teacher should teach the student, even the teachers can learn from students. And I'm proud to say that I learn a lot from you too. Your calm and composed nature, and the way you respect your parents, and the way you love your family. It's amazing. With this young age, you're so matured, and God bless you. Wholehearted blessings from me, and also the participants who are there will definitely shower all the blessings to your family. Stay blessed. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And can you share the registration link to my mail so that I can share with my colleagues? Yeah, definitely I will do that. And I think all of you would have taken the registration link as well as the feedback link. And I'll wait for another 5 minutes for you people to take the feedback link. Deepika, you can leave if you have some work. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. Bye.
Audience, if you have any queries, you can unmute yourself and talk to me. Another 5-10 minutes, I'll be online. Yes, audience, you have anything to talk, you can, or we can close. I think all of you would have taken the feedback link, given the feedback. So we will meet you all on 24th for a wonderful session. We will have a very, very different interaction with the Naturals Saloon CEO, Mr. C.K. Kumaravel. See you all on 24th. Thank you.